Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content on info@millenniumnews24.com. Download the Millennium News 24 app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Stay tuned with Millennium TV and Millennium News 24 for the latest updates.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening worldwide, our dear beloved viewers of Millennium TV International, Millennium TV News 24, broadcasting worldwide in US, local time 11 a.m., UK time 3 p.m., and Bangladesh time 9 p.m. and Indian time 8:30 p.m. So this is our favorite show from every week in the Saturday morning in US. We bring up our respected and honorable guest, entrepreneur, as well as the academician, scientist, lawmakers, specialists, engineers, professors. So today we have the guest that we have joining us, and we have been privileged to let you know that today's show has been designed with the most curious topics that entire 200 million people in Bangladesh has been eager and waiting. Nonetheless, we are the only television which is run by Dr. Nur Mohammad Tafadar, the CEO and the owner of the television, has their main center in Bonner Street, Dhaka, and in Manhattan in New York. So, dear viewers, today's topics will be discussed about the general election that was held in 2026, February 12. And I also have privilege to let you know that the gentlemen that in front of you are sitting are some of them are professor with the prominent university in the United Kingdom, the lawmaker and the barrister. And it was an honor for the Bangladeshi government and the Bangladeshi nations that we have been able to communicate with them that there was in Dhaka, in Gazipur, in Khulna, and many other part of the Bangladeshi national elections time as a election observer team assigned by the Election Commission of Bangladesh and granted by the interim government of that time, Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus interim government. Welcome, Mr. Dr. Hasanat Husain MBE.
Thank you.
How are you this morning? I also like to welcome our honorable guest, Barrister Keith Best. How are you, Mr. Keith?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you.
And also I like to welcome Professor, and I think he was also Vice Chancellor, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Simon Lee. How are you, sir, this morning as well?
Fine, thank you. Pleased to be here.
And as always, I am Engineer Uddin Ahamed, a activist, a IT expert, and working for many years since 2005 in America, in Washington, D.C. I am originally from Bangladesh, who came here for a bright future and serve as a homeland in America now. So therefore, today we have been designed this program, which is for your kind information, is been broadcasting in Facebook, in YouTube, and also in live media. It's a live program that also viewers is watching through the Apple TV, Roku TV, Jago BD, and all the satellite media stream in Bangladesh, in India, in America, in Africa, and many other countries in Asia. This television center is been in US, been established since last 24 years and operating from Bangladesh. But the good news is we are the only television who was privileged to brought up the entire election observer team, who have been visited Bangladesh from United Kingdom, and I'm sure that other television center of Bangladesh, they should take such initiative to listen what actually happened to the election, how the election was happened, how much fruitful, and what was the vital points that the election commission can learn from you, all of you, for their future election. What was the outcome? What was their shortfall? And what was missing? So, with having said that, I like to welcome Dr. Hasanat Hussain MB to give an introductory. And since we have a 1 hour time, so we'll take every guest for a few minutes, then we'll come back with some of our script points. Thank you. Please, Dr. Hasan Hussain.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us. It's a privilege to be on the air with our colleagues who together we went to Bangladesh at the invitation of the then interim government led by Professor Yunus, just the way you mentioned. But this has to be supported by the Election Commission's office, meaning the Chief Election Commissioners.
Yes.
But at the same time, the team from UK has to be cleared by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Home Affairs.
Yes.
So it was done very quickly because we have been informed only very lately in the beginning of the month of February, where the election was due for 12th of February.
Yes.
So in our team, of course, there were a collection of good number of people, but because of the very adverse propaganda being dished out against the election to be held, huge misinformation went out in the air saying there will be no election, there is trouble in the streets of Dhaka, etc. Many of our colleagues couldn't make it despite they made all the arrangements from both sides, from the government of Bangladesh, the Election Commission, as well as the Foreign Commonwealth Office here in the United Kingdom. But we, 4 or 5, we could make it because we went. So here we are.
I think you also have another guest, Mr. Colin Short.
Colin
He's
Short
going to join
was,
us short,
of course.
momentarily. Yes.
Your time was 3 o'clock. It's just 2 minutes past 3 o'clock. So
Once
maybe
he come, we'll be added him as well.
Colin Short is an IT man. Plus, he was added to our team as an expert on election affairs.
Yes.
He has 30 plus years of experience as a presiding officer in various elections in the United Kingdom. So he will be, I'm sure he will be joining us. But as a preamble, this is what we have in mind to submit to you. And then obviously I have my colleagues, Professor Simon Lee, who arrived a bit earlier like me, and Colin Short on the 7th of February, almost 5 days before the actual election. So we did many things. I would love to hear from Professor Simon Lee, his observation. Then, of course, you quite rightly mentioned the former MP, Barrister Keith Best. He is stalwart in many human rights organizations. He is experienced. He was in our team. So it would be interesting for 3 of us to recap on what we did.
So
through
thank you, Dr. Hassan. If I go back a little bit behind that, what was the reason of this election? The election supposed to be held on according to the Constitution of Bangladesh. The schedule of the election should be in 2029, not in 2026. With the July revelation of the mass community as well as the students of Bangladesh, we have achieved a successful government change, whereas a new government has been created with the leadership of Professor Dr. Muhammad Yunus. And Professor Dr. Muhammad Yunus was not taken that power not only for the election, but also for redesign the constitutions, ensuring the power of balance between the government, prime minister and the president, and also the freedom of the judiciary, which was been missing for a long time. And as you have mentioned that Mr. Keith Best was a humanitarian worker across the world. So there was no humanitarian situation in Bangladesh was very much denied. and it was being observed by the congressmen of United States and all other Commonwealth countries, European Union, including the United Kingdom. Nonetheless, the previous regime, Hasina regime, was always been negligence of establishing the human rights and the freedom of speech, and go far and beyond from practicing the democracy. On that reason, Professor Dr. Muhammad Yunus has sat down together with all the political parties. Those are coming to the election. And with that, they also have signed a July manifesto based on the July Revolution for the changes onto the constitutions and changing the lower level and the upper level as following the democracy in United Kingdom. So our current parliament is one parliament, but once we have the election designed, so we actually supersede our constitutions, because the constitution does not have those amendments. So President of Bangladesh has to sign an ordinance which is not also part of the constitutions, a special ordinance designed by the President of Bangladesh, and that been proposed by the interim head, which is also a role in the Prime Minister office. Therefore, that election happened, and the election has two parts. One is the general election to electing the new parliamentarian and the new parliament's member, and the second part and the most important part was the vote for yes or no for the July manifesto. With the election result that we observe after the elections, so the yes vote has won tremendously, with the majority vote above 60% voters voted for yes to implement the July manifestos that had been signed by all the major political parties, including the ruling party, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, Jamaat-e-Islami, the opposition, and other opposition, National Citizen Party, and all other parties have signed to the July manifesto. Hence, we can see that although the new government has been reformed and the parliament has been called by the president, but the ruling party is ignoring and they are fall short and not showing much interest to implement the July manifesto according to the public mandate of the majority, which is vast majority. We'll listen from you, all the respected guests, about that opinion, why I brought it up, because the thing that we are going to talk about is about the elections. But the outcome of the election, if it is not been implemented, then the democracy again go to the jail, again been denied, as we can see the fascist regime has been done previously. They was doing a puppet democracy, because all the power was being given to the prime minister, and prime minister is controlling the judiciary, prime minister is controlling the president, prime minister is controlling the police, army, military. So it's like a dictatorship behind the power of the prime minister. And I have a doubt that the current political party, who is the ruling party, BNP, also like to enjoy that autocratic power, because you all know that the power is very delicious, is even delicious than the food. So I think the current government don't like to give up that. That's why they are maybe declining or ignoring the July manifesto. Why it has been told that one man can be prime minister 2 times, and there will be a upper parliament where will be 100 member, will be also have control the decision and lawmaking. Thank you. I'm going back to Dr. Hasanat Husain. Please start.
I just wanted very humbly to say that we thought we are here to describe our experience of the election.
Absolutely.
And
We will discuss it. But I want to give a preemptive from my side that we are in the situation after the election.
Of course. We'll talk about it later.
We want to relate it between your experience, and we know that there is a free and fair election. So I'm going back to Dr. Hasanat Husain, and then I'll go to Barrister Keith Best. What you see about the ensuring the transparency while you was monitoring the entire process? Please, Dr. Hasanat Husain.
I think, like I said, I'll come back, but let's hear what Professor Simon Lee, he
Yes.
spent most of the time.
Sure.
Give the floor to Professor Simon
Absolutely.
Lee.
Welcome, Dr.
Barrister Keith, then I'll come back.
Okay, Mr. Simon Lee, please give us your experience regarding 2-3 points, which I would invite you to tell about the ensuring the transparency by the Election Commission.
Yeah.
And your impartial assessment for that.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the Bangladesh Electoral Commission. We had these lanyards and certificates that we were to have access to all areas. And as we could go to any polling station in the country. Nobody was checking up on us to do that. We chose 8 different ones, all in Dhaka, because there wasn't enough time to go outside the capital. But others went to different parts, and nobody knew what time we were coming. We just had to introduce ourselves to the presiding officer, and then we could talk to anybody. We could take photos. We could listen to people outside and inside. And we saw, you mentioned transparency. I found this very moving, the ballot box, which had transparent sides, but then security ties and an opaque top. And you could see the white ballots and the pink ballots for the referendum going in. And it was very moving to see that nobody was tampering, no chance of that. And then in each space, there was like a curtain where an individual went to cast their vote and nobody else went in with them. Whereas when we came back to England, in our local by-election, there were accusations that, say, the husband went in with the wife and was telling her how to vote and so on. No chance of that happening in the Bangladesh system. There were agents there. There were assistant electoral officers. And we spoke to lots of individual voters, and we could have talked to anybody. So in terms of transparency, I was very, very impressed.
Okay. So the second point, I will go to Barrister Mr. Keith Best as an international humanitarian point of view. So have you observed any deterrence or malpractice before or ongoing election time?
The short answer to that is no. I mean, my experience with Bangladesh goes back to 1972, when I was first there, almost exactly a year after the Pakistan surrender and the Declaration of Independence. I remember seeing Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangabandhu, on the Awami League platform in Ramna Park giving a speech. And I want to just come back to the point you made about the turbulence of Bangladesh elections. And I opened an office in Sylhet many years ago, and I've been going to Bangladesh more or less on an annual basis, and calling regularly on not so much Khaleda Zia, but certainly Sheikh Hasina, who of course now is under sentence of death and being harbored in India as a result of the July 2024 uprising. I think you're absolutely right to say that the tradition in Bangladesh politics has been for the political party that wins the election more or less to abuse its power. And I have seen every time the Awami League they won, they used to lock up all the election agents of the BNP and put them into prison. And when the BNP won, they did the reverse with the Awami League election agents. And so, in a way, after the uprising in July 2024, with Muhammad Yunus coming in as the de facto prime minister, but technically called the chief advisor, it was, I think, a very brave decision to call an election this year, not really knowing what was going to happen. obviously, dealing with the biggest flaw in the election was that the Awami League was banned from standing. So was one major political party that was prohibited from fielding any candidates. And I know that detractors of the election will pick on that and say, well, that demonstrates it was not free and fair. But that said, I share Simon Lee's view
Colin,
that we were extremely impressed by the actions of the Election Commission, particularly the elections handbook that had been produced, which detailed precisely the roles and responsibilities of all the different agents involved in the election officers and such like, and giving very precise requirements of how the polling stations were set up, the secrecy of the ballot, as Simon Lee mentioned, the election agents being there to oversee what was going on. And so that was the first thing. I think the literature from the Election Commission was very, very comprehensive and very, very good indeed. So I congratulate them on that. And indeed, when we visited those 8 polling stations, we saw that those requirements were being followed to the letter. And that was very impressive. We didn't see any of the violence that has typified Bangladeshi elections in the past. We didn't see any signs of corruption. We were very careful in asking questions, and nobody challenged us not to ask searching questions of the election agents and others. We observed the queues. We did have one lady who came to us, complained that she'd been given false information as to which polling station she should go to. But bearing in mind that everybody knew who we were, and everybody could have approached us, it was remarkable in a way that we had so few in the way of complaints from people. In fact, as Simon Lee was saying, the atmosphere was one of a holiday. It was almost equivalent to Eid. In fact, one lady said, this is just like Eid celebrations. People were desperate to be able to exercise free and fair vote in an election after the rather sad electoral history of Bangladesh in the past. And nobody actually said to us that they were openly critical of the fact that the Awami League was not allowed to stand, bearing in mind its background and what had happened under Sheikh Hasina up to July of 2024. So overall, we were entirely satisfied that this was a free and fair election.
I'd like to add one more thing to Mr. Kidbes. With connection to the entire day of the observing and monitoring. So the main complaint that coming from the oppositions, all the oppositions, is during the vote count and in the afternoon after the election officially over. So the ballot is all, we know that it's all was manual ballot, and those manual ballot was have to counted by people. And there is a huge complaint, and I think that also now roll into the High Court of Bangladesh of some of them recount and some of them was being manipulated the numbers. So do you observe that point of the election, which is the result? For example, if I am a student who is writing my exam paper, but the professor somehow give the number on each question, but the total count after the number, let's say I get out of 100, I get 85, but the number being tabulated is 75. So that happened. It's a big complaint. What do you observe on that perspective?
Well, we didn't observe any of the counting. Because we knew that if we did go into one of those counts, we'd have to stay there for the whole duration, and that would have disentitled us to visit other counts.
I get the answer. Yes, I get the answer from you. So in the meantime, I like to I
want to butt in.
Colin Short. Welcome, Mr. Colin Short.
Yes.
You have been always with Professor Hasanat Husain, and we are already started the program without bringing you in. So I apologize, but we also have a time frame. How are you today, Mr. Colin?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm sorry for being late. I didn't realise the time had changed, and I've been out working all morning, so I was planning to go to stay with Dr. Hasanat, but we'll carry on as we are. We'll be
Yeah,
fine.
I'll give you some time to catch up. So I'll go back to Professor Hasanat Hussain.
Ju-
Sir,
just to
Dr. Hasanat Hussain, would you please
just to
now,
butt into it. Yes.
if you please now can reconsolidate as the team that you have taken with these 3 points, what been said by Mr. Simon Lee and Keith. Can you please a short summary only on those 3 things, ensuring transparency, impartial assessment on that, and also deterrence on malpractice and international legitimacy of this election, followed by the election count after the voting. Please, you
I'll
get
be
3 minutes.
I'll be very brief, but I'll sum up what my
You get
colleagues.
3 minutes for that, please. You
Okay.
get 3 minutes. Use your 3
I'll
minutes.
try to stick to this. First of all, I completely agree with my colleagues when they mentioned that whatever we saw and whatever we noted is actually what has happened. And mind you, we were given the license to enter into any polling stations, like Professor Simon Lee
You need
was
to
saying.
flip it other side, Dr. Hassan.
Okay, it's the same signed by
Yeah,
the
now you
government.
can see that. Yes, yeah.
Okay. We all carried this, so we had this license. It is good in a sense, but remembering the complexity of the number of polling stations, we decided. I know there are teams who went to 3 different parts of the country, but then even if you are traveling by helicopter, you have to land and take a car. You couldn't possibly cover more than 3 or 4 polling stations physically. In our group, we decided we'll concentrate in Dhaka and picked up almost very diverse corners of Dhaka city, very posh, very middle class and lower middle class areas. And we covered whatever is humanly possible. I mean, I was quoted by many other fellow election observers that they hardly could manage 3 or 4. But believe you me, we didn't have any food to take, any time for any water. We are running from one station 7:30 to 4:30 in 10 hours. If you
Without water.
well, we were not supplied anything. I'll come back to that in your
Okay,
last
please.
piece. So we have to manage ours. But in order to cover and give transparency and legitimacy to what we observe, we thought we will visit diverse polling stations within Dhaka city with a car. Okay. And you can imagine 7:30 to 4:30 in 10 hours, we have covered almost 8 to 9 polling stations. And also, physically speaking, you can't be judgmental unless you spend about an hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour in a polling station. So we did that. By the time it was 4:30, Barrister Keith already mentioned that counting will start, but we decided we didn't have lunch. So we decided if we enter, like with the polling agents, we were also sometime asking them questions like, do you have enough food with you? Because once the counting will start, you will have to, it may go well over midnight. Okay, so we didn't go. Similarly, as far as I am concerned, when I talk to other fellow election observers, many could not sustain the day-long running around polling station, observing, taking notes and all this, being interviewed by the journalists present. By the way, we attracted most attention because we were carrying a British flag and a Bangladeshi flag. Our colleague Colin Short was spearheading that. So we were interviewed by many journalists also. So this is first thing. We observe even inside a polling station, inside a room, when Barrister Keith mentioned that we even discussed with our polling agents. Each polling agents, represent a political party who are contesting. And we saw the atmosphere between them, the cordiality, the hospitality. They were saying, some of them didn't carry that much food, but when I asked that you have to stay up to counting time, maybe midnight, they said we will share. So there was a very good atmosphere within polling agents themselves in almost all the polling stations we entered. That's one point to me. The polling agents were also happy whatever was going on. I mean, identifying oneself doesn't matter whether they were wearing complete veil or semi-veil or half hijab. Their names were announced, and the polling agents have to confirm, because the polling agents were also from the same locality. They have to confirm the identity of the person, whoever is casting that vote. So that is one answer I have in mind. The secondly is the counting bit. This is a criticism for the election commissioner, because we were told even before we started our journey
Okay.
from UK, we were told that we will be received at the airport. Come, you don't need visa. We'll be there. So we had this impression that the Chief Election Commission will have a permanent desk in the airport receiving us. They will take us to the hotel where we will stay. They will provide us the transport. They will do everything possible. If that was done properly, then
It
we would
didn't
have
happen.
we would have our tea break or quick lunch, sandwich, whatever. Then we would probably, many of the election observers would decide to stay back after 4:30.
So you are saying that there is no hospitality that been
I'm coming back to
given.
that. So I thought this will be an advice from us at the end of this TV talk show for the election commission to look after their election observers properly. We were just let loose. Okay, we have this freedom of going to any polling station, etc. But there are auxiliaries required. We bought our own petrol, we got our own car, and some, for example, American embassy, they might have helicopters, but again, they could not visit more than 3 or 4. It's not physically possible, even with a helicopter. So there are the drawbacks. There are areas where the election commission could improve in future elections. But as far as this election is concerned, whatever we saw, people coming, opposing parties were also in joyous mood. I even asked the student leader, the NCP student, we bumped into them. Is there any complaint? It was about 10 o'clock in a polling station.
That
They
was
said,
too
"No."
early to ask. That was too early to ask.
Yes, but even at 10 o'clock, they were saying, sir, yes, there are little skirmishes here and there, but it's not that serious as to, this is Nahid Islam.
Yes.
He is now an MP. So we had that sort of experience. We also encountered the other fairy lady from Oxford, Zara Tasneem. She made a complaint. We inquired into it and found that her complaint has some basis, but the polling officer she selected is not from the locality. So obviously, she wouldn't be able to identify the candidate. So the presiding officer asked her to replace this particular one with another one. So there were small complaints like this. And mind you, you said early in the morning, we also went to posh areas like Dhanmandi, then to Gulshan, then to Uttara. By the time it was afternoon, the casting vote was nearly 70% in some stations. And at the end, around 4:30 or 4:15 in Uttara, there were very few people lining up. So most of the votes or the voters who intended to vote were theirs. And we freely spoke not only to the polling agents inside, representing various political parties. We talked to the presiding officers or the polling officers, as well as the interested audience gathering at that time around 4:30 outside the polling station. So, in short, these are my summary observation. Colin Short is here. He's an election expert. I think it is time now we have to hear from him.
Oh,
But
thank you.
my
In
criticism,
opposed to that, what you have said, as the representative of this and host of this program, I need to brought up the opposite words,
of course.
so you can elaborate and you can decline that, which is important because there are lots of disputes on that. What you have just said. So if we go back to the general election in 2018, that been held under the government of Sheikh Hasina that time, and that election is called the vote already happened at the midnight or early morning. Although there was no chaos, there is no fighting, and it also seems the international observer team in 2018 seems to be apparently a free and fair election. Maybe there are less voter in there, but and that election won by Sheikh Hasina with huge win. Now we can see again that election 2024 has no opposition. They are one government parties and their other neutralized parties. But the election happened the same way. Apparently, is no KYs in the voting and polling stations. How do you evaluate? What is your opposed word? Would you oppose that, Mr. Colin? That no
Right.
was not like that.
Okay, for your viewers, my expertise is in polling stations because I've worked for 30 plus years as a presiding officer for UK elections.
Right.
Go back to your point regarding the fairness of previous elections. We spoke to a gentleman in one of the polling stations, and he said that this was the first time he'd been able to vote since 2001, because every time he'd gone to the polling station to vote, he got there and he was told he'd already voted. So that's the only comment I could make on what's happened previously. But I had no reason to disbelieve because he was so happy that he was able to vote. And we even met one gentleman who'd flown all the way from Canada just so he could vote in the elections. So, and I don't think someone would have done that if they could vote every previous election. He would have voted by postal vote, the same as a lot of other people. So I would say that I can't, based on especially what I saw at the July Museum, I can't believe that the previous votes under Sheikh Husain were fair, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion based on what I've learned in the 3 weeks we were in Bangladesh talking to different people, students, people who obviously lived there all their lives. So I would personally,
Thank you.
I wouldn't really believe that they were fair during Sheikh Husain's time. I'm not sure what everyone else thinks, but that was the impression I got from talking to people.
Just to add a little bit to that, in previous elections, in many polling stations were completely empty from morning to afternoon. Dogs were sleeping there. And you talked about, of course, the wider allegation that voting were done the night before. Not, at least as an observer, impartial and very professional, we wanted to maintain ourselves as very professional. Being a British team, people were looking upon us to say or to see what we write about these visits. So compared to that, we saw complete enthusiasm. Even we started from Cardigan Hall area, that is the university area, early morning. And we have seen already people gathering in the morning. And we have covered towards the peak hours, lunch hour, 3 o'clock, afternoon, 4 o'clock, up to 4:30. So that's my observation about this. About counting, like you said, at the end, what you are counting depends very much on the polling agents inside. How was their feeling against each other throughout the whole day. And also it would be good if a good number of election observers like us would be able to stay and watch. However, say among thousands of polling stations, we visited only 8, but 8 diverse ones.
Yeah.
If we could be there while counting is going on as a sample, it would be better. But that's a failure of the Election Commission, because the way they invited us from the very beginning, it was never like that. And if our food, our tea breaks, everything would have been taken care of, then we would know that let's stay back, be it midnight, we'll have our dinner at least.
Well, I agree entirely with Hasanat Husain on that. I think it would have been helpful had we been able to stay and observe the count, particularly in view of the allegations that you've made about the question that the counting was not fair in some cases. But I think you have to bear in mind the history, and I mentioned my own involvement with Bangladesh over very many years. I mean, the 2014 election was boycotted by the Bangladesh National Party altogether. The 2018 election, which you referred to as, called the midnight election, there was widespread allegation of stuffing of ballot boxes, and there was wide condemnation of that election not having been a free and fair election. So you can imagine the enthusiasm of the general public, which we saw at all of the polling stations to be able to have an election in which they felt they had confidence in the way it was being conducted because of the previous history of elections in Bangladesh. And I think, you know, their confidence was well rewarded, quite frankly, from what we saw in the way the election was actually handled. Now, we can't go beyond that. And it will have to be a matter, no doubt, for the courts if there are challenges as to that. But I think, bearing in mind the history of Bangladesh, what we saw was, frankly, an exemplary election. And I do want to just say a couple of words about the pink ballot papers, the referendum on the July Charter proposals. There was a lot of enthusiasm for that, and I'm not surprised at the overwhelming vote in favour of that. I think to move from a unicameral to a bicameral system where there is going to be proper scrutiny by an upper house, and I think, frankly, in fairness, I mean, bearing in mind, I speak as a former member of Parliament in a legislature which does not have an elected second house, and they've only just got rid of the hereditary peers voting in that to have a second chamber elected on a proportion of the votes cast for each of the political parties being represented in that second chamber will be, and I hope it's implemented, it will be a major step forward in the whole governance of Bangladesh.
Thank you.
Can I draw your attention, Mr. Ahmed, to Simon Lee wants to say something.
So I like to add here something to say about two different points regarding the elections to Simon Lee. So please, I'm telling you what is. So the election result was been getting published the night of the election after the voting has been stopped, and the voting has been start counting, and all the results coming from different thousands of polling stations are continuously getting published to the EC website. And the EC website was suddenly break down around the midnight. And at that point in time, did the EC give any of the descriptions or any debrief to the election observer team, like you came from the overseas, from the abroad, from the Commonwealth? That's question number one. The question number two is the question that I'm taking from the Mr. Keith Best is, apparently it's a free and fair election, no question about it. There are some election engineering that they are telling, and they are bringing in a vital point that once the website of the Election Commission webpage went down, it never came back then and there. It was down for a long period of time. So the last time the result was Jamaat-e-Islami unofficially win for 62 election seats, and their alliances, the remaining alliance with the Jamaat-e-Islami, win about 7 seats. Whereas at the same time, before the website went down, the BNP was unofficially elected about 77 parliamentary seat. But in the very early morning at 7 a.m., suddenly the election result was being published with a huge differences, whereas the Jamaat-e-Islami was being added to 68, and the other alliances win about 9 seats, and BNP exceeded about over 200 seats. So there's the point where people cannot even see any more live operation, the live result coming from all the returning officers all over the Bangladesh, across all the districts of Bangladesh. The deputy commissioner, DC, was the returning officer who's supposed to send the result. And some of the result was being overwritten, like the turned or overwritten by the numbers on some of the paper that had been sent from the returning officer office to the election commission office. So this is the second thing. My question is to you, did election commission secretary or any election commissioner has made any official briefing or explanation that had been provided to your team alongside with other election observer team? Mr. Simon Lee, please.
No. So we had this excellent guide that Keith Best has referred to. And when you get to the counting process, it says vote counting must be done in the presence of the candidate, election agent, polling agent. No one present can leave the counting room until counting is completed. So there were the logistics and mechanics and basics in terms of food and drink and so on. But the main point, I think, was that if you stayed in a polling booth, you would have to stay in that place until that counting was finished. And it also says mobile phones are allowed during vote counting. They must be handed in to the polling officer. So if we stayed in one, we could only have watched one. Yeah. And we'd had to stay there until maybe midnight. Whereas in fact, what we were able to do was to follow, like you're saying, as other people did on the website and on the television news, how things were being reported. But I think there's a couple of other points, if I can just make them, thrown up by what Keith Best and Colin Short have said and what you've said. One is that the diaspora has been mentioned. And this is a fantastic innovation that the diaspora could vote. And however impressive the Bangladesh Electoral Commission had been about allowing you to maybe go to different counts, the reason they didn't allow that was they didn't want anybody to leak to the television what the result was. But nobody was going to be able to check by virtue of being an observer how the diaspora vote was counted. What we do know is the diaspora participated. They were delighted that they were able to vote. And it was a technological feat to be able to hold that vote and to have multi-factor identification to stop forgery. So that was impressive. The second point to make is that when Colin Short has been, polling officer, a returning officer, we say, there's a different system in the UK in that the ballot boxes are brought to a central location in the constituency and then counted. But what we're talking about here is that the count were done in each polling booth where that box was put. And so you'd only have a very, very small fraction in one case. And similarly, if you were, in quotes, stuffing or miscounting, it would only be affecting one example.
Okay.
So actually, a strength of the Bangladesh democratic system in this election was how devolved it was, how all over the country there were literally hundreds of thousands of electoral officers who'd had training. And if something went wrong in one, it wouldn't really invalidate the whole result. And if accusations are being made that the same things happened and went wrong, then they would need to be examined by the court system. But the answer to your question is that we didn't keep in touch with the Bangladesh Electoral Commission during the night, but we were trying to soak up the atmosphere by following the results, which we couldn't have done if we'd stayed in one place.
Thank you. Dr. Hassan Hussain, with all of your permission, we need to take an ad break, and we'll come back within the next 30 to 40 seconds. After that, I will come to Dr. Hassan Hussain for consolidation of our second exchange of our topics. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be coming shortly. Please, viewers, stay with us.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages seen to America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum again. Welcome back to our Millennium TV live show in Millennium International Television News 24. And I'd like to thank you again on behalf of Millennium TV and from my bottom of my heart all of our respected guests to giving the valuable time and donating it for the betterment of Bangladesh. We all discussing about the future and betterment and potentiality and possibility for the upcoming ruling parties and the government and the betterment of the democracy in Bangladesh. So I will go back to Mr. Colin Short to summarize, because we are having few minutes more left. If you please, Mr. Colin Short, please summarize the entire observation, onboarding to the plane towards Dhaka and up to the returning, your entire experience, not only for the election, but also for the heritage, the hospitality, and the people and your experience. I give you 3 minutes.
What I would say is that this was my first trip to Bangladesh, and I can honestly say I've never met so many nice, helpful, and caring people anywhere, even in London. Everyone we spoke to, they were happy to be there during and after the election. We spoke to afterwards. I spent an extra 2 weeks with Dr. Hasanat Husain, travelling to Kurna, Sundarban, and Sylhet, and we spoke to lots of people, and they were all really, really nice people. They were really happy about what they'd seen. But I would like to ask one question. Have you mentioned the postal votes yet?
Yes.
Yeah. And what I would say, having been involved in the UK,
you can say
vote system in Bangladesh is far better than the UK. The fact that you have to go online and then it uses facial recognition to verify the individual, it eliminates effectively personation, which is basically an electoral term for people who try and vote for somebody else. That was one of the things that surprised me the most, about just how good that was. But one thing I would say, by profession, I'm an ICT professional. With regards to the website going down, that I don't know, wasn't aware of this until you mentioned it, but it is not unusual when you've got a lot of people trying to look at a results of something, and basically the system wasn't designed to cope with that level of traffic. So that may well have been the case. But I don't know. But honestly, I couldn't have hoped to have seen a more fair and equal election. All of the people who were in the polling station from the different parties, the people outside who were waiting to go in to vote, everything was very friendly. There was no animosity at all. And to be honest, in that respect, it's better than some of the elections that occur in the UK. So I've really enjoyed my trip to Bangladesh. The people are great.
Is not the Bangladeshi foods are much spicy?
There's a story about that, but it would take too long to tell you. We went to one particular friend, Dr. Husain, who gave us a lovely meal. All the meals we had were beautiful, but there was one particular dish that even Dr. Husain took one bite and wouldn't eat any more of it because it was a bit too spicy. So, but over the course of the 3 weeks, my ability to eat spicy food increased as we went along. But yeah, it was great. Everything was fantastic. Food, the people, and the election process itself. It couldn't have been fairer from my point of view.
Thank you. I'll go back to Dr. Hassan Hussain. As you have lead the team, because you know Bangladesh is your motherland. So would you like to give a 3-minute summary now, or you would like to do it later? It's up to you. I give you the floor now.
I take this opportunity to link what Colin Short was saying. No animosity at all, neither seen on the ground outside the polling station or in the roads or inside the particular room within a station. Even say we discussed about counting, and we discussed also from statistical point of view or IT point of view that one anomaly inside one room cannot be taken as an average to the whole thing. But there are other things also to be considered. First of all, the polling agents representing the particular parties which were contesting in that particular station, let's say, it varied. And somewhere we saw 4 polling agents sitting side by side, sharing food, their ideas. We did not see any animosity between them because it doesn't matter whether it is early in the morning or in the midday or in the afternoon. Also, after the election, I can tell you categorically, I know lots of viewers will see it even after this live program because this is the first time
Definitely.
they are listening to a
Definitely, yes.
British team going to Bangladesh as an election observer. So I will categorically say another thing, that given the diversity of our team, many could not make it because of the very reason I said, misinformation and propaganda from outside Bangladesh. But those of us who went there, we agreed between ourselves that we will see and listen and take down note to what we see, and we are all independent. And independently, we reported our findings. Number one, and
That's the beauty right there. That's the beauty right there of your
absolutely team. That's the beauty of us, and it is our writing has gone to Guardian, Daily Star, and these are in the pipeline, and like your TV talk show now. So that is there. Plus, there is another thing among us. What we maintain is complete professionalism. We have years of experience in our background, like already you have told, or we also expressed. Barrister Keith Best, Professor Simon Lee, Colin Short, myself, and other members of the team who could not make it are now saying that they missed a great opportunity of being able to say that, yes, we also took part. Our contribution may be very little, but to pull back from Bangladesh from a very chaotic July, August of 24 and the past regimes back to a path which leads to democracy. So we take that pride. However small our contribution is, that is there. There is another element into this, that not only that we maintained among ourselves, that you mentioned that I am son of the soil. So taking with me my colleagues back to Bangladesh, obviously my colleagues will also have observed me that so many political parties who took part in the election, their heads, most of the heads know me because of my long connection with Dhaka University and with my home country, also my connection in the host country with education particularly. So we maintain absolute professionalism in we agreed, and my colleagues will testify to this, that many people tried to contact me from many political parties, almost their heads, but I refused to contact any one of them till 13th. 12th was the election day. 13th is our summing up day. Then on the 14th, I started picking up phones from various political BNP, be it BNP, Jamaat-e-Islami, you mentioned this, NCPs. They called me. And believe you me, I will say this in front of this audience, that even Jamaat-e-Islami Amir rang me on the 14th, I believe, after midnight. And I said, are you happy with the election? He said,
Dr. Shafiqur Rahman.
Yes, Alhamdulillah. I said, you got nearly 68 plus, you say 72 seats. Are you happy? He said, Alhamdulillah, I'm happy. I said, for the first time, Bangladesh, I can foresee, will have a parliament where youngsters like Nahid, Hasanat Abdullah, or Saki, or Noor,
Akhtar
Hussain, they will be there along with 68 Jamaat-e-Islami well-educated people, plus the BNP. So this parliament will be something very important one, from much different from the previous parliament of yes ministers and no ministers.
There are vital candidates also like Barrister Rumin Farhana.
Absolutely, independent
as a independent.
So if there is an issue, after all, parliament is to make policies. So when there will be discussion on an issue, it will be a very lively debate on that. And none of them, even if they are minority parties, none of the students will leave any space to be overshadowed by party political agenda. That is our hope. And as a team, I should say I feel enormously grateful to my colleagues also that we took part in our small way an effort to put Bangladesh back to democracy. Now we'll of course observe Bangladesh going forward, marching
Yes,
forward.
thank you. We'll take it as we'll take the last portion as the keynote that I forwarded to our election commission office to take accordingly.
May I just
one more thing I like to add, Dr. Hassan Hussain, learning from
Keith wants to say something.
Yes, I'm coming there, Mr. Keith. Thanks for the patience. He was excited about, Mr. Colin was excited about the diaspora voting as well as time only. Why don't you mention about that? What is your work to establishing the diaspora voting rights that you fight for voice on behalf of Voice for Globally Bangladesh's president, and forwarding many letters and take initiative actions, even towards the Bodiur Alam Majumdar, who was the election in charge monitor thing. I will come to you for 30 seconds after that, Mr. Hassan Hussain, but now I have to go back to, according to the program, to Mr. Keith Best. We are running out of the time. Mr. Keith Best, would you please summarize from your point of view, as Dr. Hassan Hussain mentioned, that you all remain as independent observer, although you as part of the team. You get 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to put this election into context. I'm not at all surprised that there were challenges as to its fairness afterwards. That is a tradition in Bangladeshi politics. But frankly, the criticism and the allegations are nothing compared with what happened after the 2014 and the 2018 elections. And I think you have to bear in mind, just as Dr. Hasanat Husain was mentioning about his personal conversation with Jamaat, I know that Jamaat called for recounts in 32 constituencies. Well, actually, 32 constituencies is a very small number of the total constituencies in any event. But I think the fact that subsequent to the election, Jamaat have said that they want to be a constructive opposition to the government indicates that they are not going to continue to claim that this was a totally flawed and illegitimate election. And I think then when you look at the international reaction from everybody, from Prime Minister Modi to the Malaysian Prime Minister to a whole raft of international prime ministers and presidents contacting Tariq Rahman, congratulating him on the election. I mean, these are not people who are going to be turning around and saying this was an illegitimate election. I think
obviously, to add you that's the international courtesy to congratulate the new government. Even normal, we saw that many president and prime minister, even including Modi and president of United States, also congratulate Sheikh Hasina. So I will not say that there's the proof of the fair and free election.
Well, it may not be proof that they're not going to complain about it. I mean, I put on one side the comments from Sheikh Hasina, because it would be obvious that she would make those comments, particularly because the Awami League was not allowed to stand. And so I understand that from her perspective entirely. But I think what you're looking at is governments around the world who are saying they are prepared to work with a new government in Bangladesh on the basis of its legitimacy, not saying that they will not work with a government in Bangladesh because it is illegitimate. And that is the critical point. So it's not just international election observers like the Democratic Institute or the International Republican Institute observers being there, the Commonwealth and others, but it is also the reaction from the international community in political leaders.
International community also learning a lot of new things that come out top of the head of the Bangladeshi government and the prime minister, previous prime minister, the new way to election rigging. Even I think no international people even thought about it. I think there is a lot of research we need for Sheikh Hasina, how she can invented those type of election engineering. So that's why I'm saying that we may
every election, wherever it's held, is subject to allegations of elections. Professor Simon Lee referred to the family voting allegations in the British elections, where more than one person of the family was allowed into the polling station and therefore could influence, arguably, the way in which individual voted. We saw nothing of that in those 8 polling stations.
I'm not opposing what you have said. I really have accepted what you have said.
But I just wanted to end by saying I think the jury is out as to how this government behaves. I want to see the July Charter recommendations implemented. I want to see that done, and I think there's a very heavy burden of responsibility on Tariq Rahman and the BNP to make sure that the world sees that this is Bangladesh maturing into a sophisticated democratic country where actually elections are meaningful and fair, and where actually governments behave not in the bullying dominant way that they have in the past in Bangladesh, but actually in a constitutional way.
Thank you. It's a very great opinion. I love
Simon Lee, please,
and respect. Please go ahead, Simon Lee. You get about 2 minutes. We are very much running over time, but
sure. Just very briefly, I wanted to add
the whole thing that as best as you can, please.
You asked about the general reception. One thing to mention is the day before we got to see the chief advisor to the interim government in person. I mean, it couldn't have been a busier time for himself, Dr. Mohammed Yunus and his staff. But they graciously received us and we were able to ask them anything. The day after the election, we were able to see the Museum of the Student Uprising, which was very, very moving and explained a lot of the atmosphere. And then after the election, we went to see different people and asked them what their experience was. And one young woman who's a lecturer, recently a student, she said that at Eid, young women like herself would show the henna on their hands to other friends on Facebook. But on election day, they were showing their left thumb because it would have an indelible ink mark, which was one of the many ways of checking that there was no voter fraud. Yeah. And that seemed to me to sum up the spirit. And I would say, as a professor and a vice chancellor, that the atmosphere was like a graduation day. And to pick up Keith Best's point, it's as if Bangladesh democracy has graduated.
Thank you.
Can I just make one point? Something that I observed, and we all observed at the elections, was there was no consideration given to access for the old, the infirm, and the disabled. A lot of the booths were on the second or third floor, and we actually saw one individual being carried up the stairs in a wheelchair by other people. And so perhaps in the future, when they choose booths, they could consider putting them on the ground floor with some sort of easy access for the disabled.
Okay. Thank you. We learned a lot from you. Just to say thank you very much to all of you. Barrister Keith Best, and you are the former parliamentary member of the House of Lords. We wish you all the very best. Commons, we wish you all the very best. You are uplifting the voice for the negligence, the people who have been neglected all over the world. You always vocal to them. Thank you, Dr. Husain. You have been always vocal to the Bangladeshi politics and for the betterment of Bangladesh throughout your organization, Voice for Justice and Voice for Global Bangladeshis, including adding the voting rights.
I didn't have chance to say much about voting rights, but
yes, after I'll come to you. I'll give you one more minute because you will summarize, and then Mr. Professor Simon Lee, you have been a teacher, you have been an academician, you have been a vice chancellor in UK in a prominent university. I could not recall the name, but you can tell the name of your university though. What university?
Both Liverpool Hope University and Leeds Metropolitan University.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Colin Short, we missed you at the beginning of the program, but you have input great thoughts and a valuable opinion. So, is there any three of you have anything to say? Any other thing that you like to say before we go to Professor Hassan Hussain?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, so then I will go back to Dr. Hassan Hussain. If you please summarize within like 1 minute, because we are already run out of 4 minutes extra to the program.
Okay.
There is a
I'll
live
be
news
very
feed after that.
Thank you to Millennium TV and its the huge number of audience, plus all the technicians who are working behind to make this program a success. I'm particularly grateful to my colleagues here who gave so much of their time, energy, money, and effort for a country which is called Bangladesh. And on their behalf, also, I can say that we take great pride that we have taken, however small it could be, a part in that journey of Bangladesh into democracy, which we want to see it flourish and take it forward as a role model for the rest of the world. On the second point, just about voting rights, this is another thing we have achieved, and we have seen it. I myself voted from United Kingdom using that small corridor, which the digitalization of postal votes has been done in Bangladesh. It is something praiseworthy. Nearly 800,000 NRBs, non-resident Bangladeshis, voted this time. Hopefully, by next election, about 1.5 million people will be casting their vote. It is such a, I'm a student of science, and I believe that even if in the Middle East, some 20, 25, 50 came to one address because they work in a factory and all that. But to get it and then to enter into it, you have to have your own NID card. Even if your NID card is lost, every step you have been asked to go into your mobile phone, look into it, look right, look left, smile, so that you are identified in every stage. When you are ready to vote, they say, no, it's not time because your constituent MPs have not yet been selected. So at every stage, such was the safeguard in that system. And being such a short notice, this is a great credit to Professor Dr. Yunus and his team that after 52 years, despite repeated governments were told that nearly 1/10 of Bangladesh population, 1.6 million, 5 million people work abroad and pump money into Bangladesh. That's why Bangladesh didn't become Sri Lanka during Corona, for example. So that people had the opportunity to cast their vote this time. And I myself put my vote before leaving for for Bangladesh. And this system was so foolproof, I'm sure that this is something Bangladesh could be proud of. With
Thank
that,
you, Dr. Hassan Hussain.
thank you.
So now it's time for me to summarize what we have learned from our honorable and respected guest that been joined from UK as the election observatory team assigned by Election Commission of Bangladesh, and they have been reported officially and also reported to their thoughts and their observation to the viewers, because I think this should be another new practice that we have been initiated throughout the Millennium TV to come out to the media and give the detail. So what we learned from that, dear viewers, we learned that the election has been held in February 12 for two different reasons. One is to elect the new parliamentarian member of parliaments for Bangladesh, and also the voting for the July manifesto. And Mr. Keith, Barrister Keith has said that they will continue their observation how the new government and the Prime Minister Tariq Rahman is fulfilling the eagerness of the people of Bangladesh and what they implement the voting rights for the yes and no vote. And obviously, yes has won tremendously with above 60% to implement the manifesto of the July, and it's all the agendas been written and been signed by all the political parties, including the ruling party BNP. So they are all looking and observing the new government led by Prime Minister Tariq Rahman. Also, we have learned from this program, dear viewers, that all our guests has come together and give their compliment. The election was free and fair, with no hassle. That was been accepted by the diplomatic bodies that been in Bangladesh, and also it been congratulated by as all over the government, chief of the government or head of the state. in many countries. There are here and there some deterrents of malpractice, but that are cannot be impact all the parliament members and their seats. That may be allegation come throughout the court. The disputes was only for 32 seats, whereas there is still a dispute of election engineering. But the election observer team has been sitting in front of us. They are also monitoring, and they are also all of them. There are some academicians who always spend their whole life for research, including Mr. Colin Short, or the humanitarian team activists like Mr. Keith or Professor Simon Lee. So they will observe and they will do further research as the continuous process of is there any election engineering have occurred or any malfunction. That's a matter of research, and we cannot judge that. There also we learn. There are some report that we have learned from that the new edition of the voting and the intensity of the government and the election commission was tremendously open wide. And also our guest has thanked the law enforcement of Bangladesh. They also thank the military body. They come with to ensure the free and fair election of removing all kind of threats or any kind of rigging threats from the election. There are a lot of polling officers and the dedication for the political parties. They also thank all of them, and they look forward to success and the betterment of Bangladesh. Having said that, dear viewers, thank you very much, and thank you so much our respected guest, Mr. Professor Dr. Husain, Barrister Keith Best, Professor Simon Lee, and Mr. Colin Powell. We got a lot of display from your camera, Mr. Colin. I think right. So those has been displayed throughout, and I hope this will be a legendary talk show episode that I dedicated for the people of Bangladesh throughout this program. And nonetheless, I would not forget to thank our sound engineer and the technical manager of this program, who has always been prominent and very much expert, Mr. Saidur Rahman Chaudhary, a young fellow of Bangladesh. Please pray for him and his health and success. And also thank Dr. Nur Muhammad Tafadar. Thank you again. Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz. Have a good
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
মাইটেক ইউএসএ কম্পিউটার ট্রেনিং এবং কর্মসংস্থান। আমরা দ্রুত সময়ে উচ্চতম বেতনে চাকরি পাওয়া ও আইটি ক্যারিয়ারের দক্ষতার সাথে টিকে থাকার নিশ্চয়তা দিয়ে থাকি। বাংলাদেশি আমেরিকান অভিবাসীদেরকে অগ্রাধিকার ভিত্তিতে সার্বিক প্রশিক্ষণের মাধ্যমে দক্ষ ডেটাবেস অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেটর হিসেবে মাত্র 5 মাসের মধ্যে প্রস্তুত করে বিশাল আইটির চাকরির বাজারে দুর্দান্ত প্রতিযোগী হিসেবে নিয়োজিত করি। আমরা আপনার উন্নত, সহজ ও সচ্ছল জীবনের স্বপ্ন পূরণে সততার সাথে সবচাইতে আধুনিক প্রযুক্তি প্রশিক্ষণ দানে সর্বদা সজাগ দৃষ্টি ও সক্ষমতা সহ আপনার সেবায় নিয়োজিত। আমাদের সাথে যোগ দিন। সহজ মাসিক কিস্তিতে কোর্স করে নিজের ভাগ্য নিজেই বদলান। আমরা $500 রেফারেল বোনাস দিয়ে থাকি। ভর্তি চলছে। আমাদের কোর্স সমূহের মধ্যে আছে ডেটাবেস অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেশন ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং, MongoDB, Azure, Microsoft, SQL Server, NoSQL, Oracle। আজই আপনার বিশ্বস্ত আইটি প্রতিষ্ঠান মাইটেক ইউএস এর সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন।
Phone number 929-435-3696, 571-208-5450, 813-767-4600।
এছাড়া আমাদের ইমেইল করতে পারেন। আমাদের ইমেল আইডি ziaahamed@ymail.com। ধন্যবাদ।